like, I didn't know that. I didn't know you were reading the little bottom part, dude. Otherwise, I would have been like, oh, no, read the top part and just use the D-pad to do whatever it's asking you to do there. I didn't know that. I just, it's all good, though. It's all good.
Well, and so take that into perspective, like, the instructions were about how hard I was expecting it to be. Because some of the stratums, they are about that hard. Like, it's kind of like left, right, and there's a bomb, it's not. But these things, man, it's like there's a fucking plumbing schematic, and I'm like, installing, like, I'm like, copper pipe's not going to work down there. You're going to have to get a pipe fitter up here. That's a union job.
Yeah, like, I'm a Helldiver. What the hell? Welcome gamers, non-gamers, PvEers, PvPers, and even NPCs, and even Terminids and automatons. This is the New Wave Gaming Podcast with your hosts, the top-ranked Tennessee Helldiver and Archophile ChukTomahawk.
Yeah.
And myself, Ovox. Episode 43. And thanks for joining us. Happy to be here. Chuck, how is the battle against the Terminid infestation going, my brother?
Whew. I guess it depends on which side you're looking at, man. It seems like it's going pretty good with the bugs, but the automatons, not so much,
man. Have you been enjoying the struggle for democracy and freedom?
Managed
you enjoying
democracy.
enjoying being on the right side of history.
Fuck, the right side seems like the place to be. That left side of the map. I think those people better get used to not being free.
Yeah, for the time being, while they're getting liberated. Yeah, so how about Helldivers 2? That's kind of, that's kind of what we wanted to talk about and just have fun with on this episode. Just going to wing it, I guess. We wanted to talk about Helldivers 2 and fucking how fun it is, which I'm sure a lot of you listeners are already well aware of. And if you haven't tried it, fuck, give it a shot. And the news about Xbox and Xbox exclusivity and that whole rumor. We don't know if you've heard about that. I don't think we've mentioned it yet on the podcast, but it's a recent one, rumors that have since been, what's the right wording? Cleared up?
Squash.
What'd you say, Chuck? They've been cleared up. We've gotten news, and we now know what's going on, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. So yeah, Helldivers 2. What do you got to say, Chuck?
It's intense. Just like my personal experiences, like I kept seeing the videos, and I was like, man, that looks fun. But I could tell it was intense, and like I kind of been fighting a cold all week and just really wasn't like how you kind of get that brain fog mode, like where you're there, but you're kind of not there.
Your feet are on the ground, but your soul is in a different place.
And that's kind of how I felt. So that's one of the reasons I did postpone it by a day or two. And yeah, I feel like, the starting part is just that. It's just the starting part, and it's going to get tough. Man, excited, I guess, would be the short answer to your question. Like, it looks really good. It makes me feel like there's a part in Star Wars, like I think it was, it's kind of like when the Empire has the upper hand, and it's one of the latest movies that this video game kind of reminds me of, like when I think they're called shock troopers are hitting the ground or something, and it just. It kind of makes me feel like a badass stormtrooper or something.
Yeah, dude. That's funny you mentioned that, because I also got Star Wars vibes in some of the moments when I was playing the game, especially the first sessions. And I also got vibes from a lot of other movies. I think it goes without saying that anyone that is old enough and had seen the Starship Troopers movie definitely can relate those to, to medias, right? I mean, if you've ever seen Starship Troopers, like playing Helldivers 2 is your opportunity to be Starship Trooper, right? In a way.
Live that fantasy.
Oh my gosh, there's so much about the game that reminded me of Starship Troopers. Kind of like that I don't know what the right wording is, but like when you jump into Helldivers 2, like there's this whole comedy to the fact that their whole like world is like in this huge like war thing.
Yeah, it's
the
almost
way the way they commercialize like joining the SEAF, and how like just the whole liberty and democracy and like the whole like vibe to the game and the way the way you play and the way they you know what I'm getting
it's
at?
Like that fuck my life vibe, like like when you've kind of shit's just going to hell, but you kind of got a sense of humor about it because you've embraced the suck at that point, I think they call it. Like,
well, there's that, of course, and then like there's the whole like how it's part of their market. Just like like, because you notice in the game there's like commercials and like join the SEAF, join the Helldivers, fight for liberty and democracy and be all that stuff. But like as soon as you open the game and you get in, like it opens with a commercial. Yeah. And it says like, please pay it. I'm paraphrasing, but it says something to the effect of like, please pay attention to this service announcement from the something like that. And then at the bottom it says, deviations in your attention may result in treason or something like that. It's so funny, And then there's like a commercial, of like this neighborhood and these people that are all in these uniforms and everything's lovely and great. And all of a sudden just it's total chaos. And the way they it's a commercial though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's a business to just bring in more Helldivers and more people because they're just like, I think somewhere in the game it says like, you will die often. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, they are fairly upfront about it, but you can kind of almost tell like they're kind of gaslighting people into doing it, like they're not really saying like, hey, we're about to throw you in a meat grinder. Like,
yeah, totally. Like, yeah. It's the ultimate honor, like they join the Helldiver.
Did my neighbor come back missing both his arms? And he don't talk no more.
That's funny. And before I forget, like, listeners can relate. We can all relate to this, but like, if you go back in your mind, I'm just trying to relate something because that happened to Chuck, our beloved co-host here, because it was so hilarious to me. Like, just to reiterate how popular this game is right now, because it really is kicking ass. If we all go back to our high school days or middle school, I think we can go back as far as middle school, high school. Any younger listeners are probably experiencing this now, like, and let me tell you, you don't cease to experience it the older you get. You just get older and wiser, and that bullshit goes by, But like, I'm referring to peer pressure. That's what I'm talking about. And you get a lot of that in middle school and high school. And I remember it, like it's intense. Like people trying to push it on you, the kids, like, yo, come try it, let's do this, like, don't worry, it'll be fine, you're pretty, so on and so forth. But Chuck, can you remember your days of receiving peer pressure?
Oh, fuck yeah. Well, you're talking about like whether or not pressure, to buy this game or get in there.
Have you ever experienced peer pressure in your life, the likes of that pressed upon you by Pepe Tortilla to get this damn game? Talk about peer pressure, brother.
Yeah. And I'm usually a pretty easy sell on those. It was more situational for me. Like I said, I was just sick, and
he didn't know that though. We didn't know, and he was just like relentless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chuck, we're waiting for you, brother. We're waiting for you.
It almost could be like a whole new episode, because I don't think like exactly, no one can walk in someone else's shoes. But I will say, like kind of to your point, as it doesn't change as you get older, but something does happen, like where like adapting to new things, especially modern video games, like it's a little harder as you get older, and especially if you're rocking a brain fog, kind of situation, because there's like games these days, it's not only do you have to figure out what the controls do, there's all kinds of settings and things that how the game functions and that it seems like you can hand that to a 12-year-old and they're just like, oh, this makes sense, like, but I'm just like,
brother. I just got Pal World. I'm trying to focus on getting our boss Rexes ready for the boss fight on Ark. And then you two motherfuckers are off trying some new game and trying to pull me into it. Like, I can see.
Oh, it just felt exhausting to even think about. Like, because it's a struggle to kind of get that sort of squared away, and they just get harder, dude. And like one example is like we keep getting into those terminals or whatever, and like it'll say like to use the D-pad, like.
Oh yeah, on the objectives when you launch in, you get the objectives, and they ask you to do these. Tell everyone what you're talking about, Chuck, just in case they haven't played.
Yeah, you might be like trying to make something happen in the game, like bring in an airstrike or something, and they'll have something very similar to like a Konami code type situation where you got it's left, right, down. It's not super complicated, but shit, some of those terminals are complicated. Like. And below it, there's a thing that tells how to use it, like that's just like a depiction of the D-pad. Like it's showing someone pushing left, showing someone pushing right, and showing someone
like
pushing up and down.
The bare minimum information.
I keep thinking that is the instructions. Like so, I push up, down, right, left, and really, like I'm not even starting the puzzle yet. Like I'm just I did it. I did it again. I did it. That's like the baseline for me, and it's just like,
you're just making it's a simple mistake. You're looking down at you're looking down at the instruction of how to interact with the screen. Yeah. What Chuck's talking about is when you pull in those, they're the stratagems. That's what they're called, stratagems in the game. Yeah. And you get a series of stratagems that you can swap out and get different ones as you level up. But you get some base ones as soon as you get in. I think you get an aerial, like airstrike type thing. It's not an airstrike though. What is it? A aerial assault type of like attack beam thing, and you get you get supplies and stuff like that. But anyways, Chuck's talking specifically about like if you go in and your mission is to like shut down a enemy propaganda broadcast, you basically got to get to the objective location with your squad or solo if you're playing solo, and with respect to the objective, you get to the terminal, you find the terminal that like connects to the broadcasting thing, and you got to shut that down. But to shut it down, you got to access this like screen and type in sequences using the D-pad. So if I'm understanding correctly, Chuck, when you access the screen, there was instructions on there, but at the bottom it'll tell you how to interact with that screen, and it says press left, up, right, down to interact with screen. And Chuck's there hitting left, up, right, down, left, up, right, down, left, up, right, down, left. It's not working, Ovox. Fuck, man. And then it's and then
you're like, take it down.
I didn't realize, I didn't want to. Okay, the reason I'm not like more. Okay, yeah, I wasn't trying to be a dick. I was trying to let you experience the game without feeding you oh, this is exactly how you do it. I had known that you were reading I didn't know that. I didn't know you were reading the little bottom part, dude. Otherwise, I would have been like, oh, no, read the top part and just use the D-pad to do whatever it's asking you to do there. I didn't know that. I just, it's all good though. It's all good.
Well, and so take that into perspective, like the instructions were about how hard I was expecting it to be. Because some of the stratagems, they are about that hard. Like, it's kind of like left, right, and there's a bomb, it's not. But these things, man, it's like there's a fucking plumbing schematic, and I'm like, installing like. I'm like, copper pipe's not going to work down there. You're going to have to get a pipe fitter up here. That's a union job.
Like, I'm a helldiver. What the hell? Why are they got me connecting piping and releasing seals and shit?
Well, and ultimately, like to relate this back to your question, like I know that these games are going to have these things, and I could tell it was a nice game, and it's gonna take some. There's going to be a learning curve and like these skill gaps that develop and things, and so like whereas used to the peer pressure was like money based, like when I was a kid and I only had so much allowance, and these games were like $30-$40 back then even. So you were only going to get a few a year. You had your birthday, you had Christmas, and you had to plan that shit right. So I might have, but now I'll drop $40 on a game, like especially if I know I'm going to play it a few times, if you guys are already playing it. But so it's more, yeah, like, am I in a mental place, like, where I want to, really,
invest the energy and time into learning because and there's something to say that it's different when you're talking about some single player like RPG that you can slow burn and have fun with, smoke a doob, have some, what are your favorite drink, and versus the time and energy that it takes to become good at a game like this. That's
Absolutely.
because this kind of a game, your Call of Duties, your Counter Strikes, your Apex Legends, all the Fortnites, these are all different. It's a different ballpark. It's a different game. It's a different animal. Like, if you want to have any kind of fun in these games, you got to learn how to play them. And that takes time and energy. You're right about that, Chuck.
And you take 2 weeks off and you're back to that place. Like, it's like, oh man, you went on vacation. Let me send you a video about the new meta. You're going to want to change these settings. Like, and it's just like, and yeah, you're right. Sometimes I'm in the mood for that. And I definitely see the benefit, but other times, like, yeah, it's just life's been hitting you. Life comes at you fast, as we all know, like changes and shit, and you're just like,
Well, and I can't speak for you, but Pepe Tortilla and I were certainly looking for like something fresh, because we've really been cycling back and forth with a couple of oddballs out there, like mostly Warzone and Ark, and then you guys will play some different games every now and then. Pepe will go play Battlefield 1, which is an awesome game. I'll go and play Ghost of Tsushima and some other games. I've been enjoying. I've been playing a lot of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. It's been fun. So, but we kind of go back and forth between those two games. So, getting when Pepe's like, "Hey, Helldivers." Yeah, me too. I'm a little burpy over here too, Chuck. Sorry, we're both looking in the Skype right here. We're both covering our mouth. It's like, yeah, that coffee's coming. Burp. Anyways, it was nice. It's been nice, and we're gonna play later, and I'm looking forward to it. Like, it's a good feeling. We're all familiar with it. It's nice to have a nice and yeah, man, and it's just really. Considering it's so fresh, and my understanding is that Arrowhead Studios is an indie developer, with the support of PlayStation, with Sony as the publisher. That's awesome. The game is doing amazingly well, but it has had difficulties, server issues. The player base is kind of like weakening a little bit because of these issues, but the developers are like, it seems like they're just up 24/7 working on these issues. So that's really cool. Every time I sign in, there's a new update. At least that's how it's been lately. And like, we needed that breath of fresh air, and they delivered a really great breath of fresh air. Like, it's not just your regular fresh air. That's that top shelf fresh air, because the game is hilarious. It really makes you crack up a bunch. Like, you'll be on your ship, just kind of like swapping out your gear and everything, and then all of a sudden on a big screen, one of those commercials will come on, and it'll be like, "Don't get your legs shot off, because if you do, then you can't run towards the enemy." Like, it's just, I don't think they actually say that, but they say stuff like that, you know what I mean? And it's funny. And then, you're just in this like, oh yeah, this game is just, it's a comedy. And then you get on the battlefield and it's like, nah, shit is real. And it's explosive. Dude. and it's messy, and it's dirty and gritty, and you're not going to get out of there without, you're going to die a lot in the game. I don't know. It seems like it doesn't matter how good you are. I mean, I'm sure there's people that are going to become record holders and like Helldiver legends, like yourself. Top ranked Tennessee Helldiver ChukTomahawk. People are going to get amazing at it, and they're going to, but for the most part, most gamers are going to experience this and just be like, yeah, man, you start battling the Terminids or those automaton things. It's real. It requires skill.
It does, and I think what makes this game great is the fact that they sort of make you feel like you're part of a larger thing. I feel like without that, it would be fun for a minute, but it'd be kind of like playing the campaign of Halo or something, where I might even do it twice on a couple different difficulty settings, but eventually I'll be done with it. But what I feel like is going to make this game go on is that larger battle picture. Dude, there are TikTok videos of people like recruiting players that are just like, they're over on that automaton side and they're like, stop what you're doing, like get on here now, like we need help, and they're like showing themselves like on some of the harder missions over there. Just
I think there's like 9 levels of difficulty.
And they'll bring up that big map, and they'll kind of be going over on the green side there where everybody's fighting the bugs, and they're like, yeah, you guys are over here just chilling, having a big
having a picnic.
He's like, we're over here getting our asses handed to us. Get over here. And it's and I think
I just saw a T-1000. I swear it was the Terminator. What is he doing here? This is fucked.
Yeah. And like people are just like recruited, and I also saw people like, how at the end of the night last night we got kind of kicked out and like the who knows what caused that, but when we tried to get back in we couldn't get in. And there's people that are really good that can't get back in, that are just like, you fucking losers, get the fuck out of there. Like,
you mean because the servers were maxed out? So, okay, so that's crazy, because I had seen that they were having difficulties with their server. Maybe they're just trying to grow their player base, but it's still healthy. I don't know, because
this is always an issue,
like, dude.
Like all it takes is a bug to fly into a freaking power line somewhere or something, and shuts down some servers
but
somewhere.
It said that their servers were
scaling
full.
up.
Maybe that was just, who knows? I'm speculating, and I shouldn't have stopped your momentum. Continue, Chuck. Sorry.
Yeah, just people basically like, because one thing I didn't see for when we played that I have saw online is like there's a place where you can report like what percentage of difference your squad has made in the overall battle, sort of like all players are not created equal in this fight, and like, because it is like what I say makes it great is that cumulative effort that we're like, it's important, like if a really good player is kicked out and you've got people in there that are basically losing ground, yeah, we don't want that. No, like, you want the good.
And that's something, that was a mechanic that I really thought was badass, is that like it's almost like a persistent server scenario, kind of like Ark, like if when you're online and contributing to the battle, you're seeing the numbers move, like, because they really monitor the numbers. It's part of that like that commercialization of war, and that they show in the game, how it's just a business. It's numbers, Hold on. I got before you come with like it's. Yeah, so you'll see the percentages of the battle move, and like, oh, we need more Helldivers and such. But if you're in there contributing, they show you how much your squad contributed when the mission ends. And so when you leave the battle, like let's say you're done, you need to go have lunch in real life or whatever, and you're done gaming for a bit, and you leave the battle, and those numbers are where they are. When you come back, or when you're offline, the battle is still waging. The war is still waging. People are still fighting. That same battlefield is still active. And when you come back, those numbers are going to look different. I noticed that because one day I was like on, and there were no fronts open with the automatons. It was just there were only fronts open against the Terminids. And then the next day I signed in, it's like a new battle front has opened against the automaton, blah 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 blah. And I was like, oh cool, now I can fight these Terminator looking dudes. And yeah, they look like Terminators with red swords coming out of their arms.
Yeah. Dude, I think like imagine like sort of what I'm gonna just use like a flash mob as a thing. Like let's just imagine that we all, like, somebody makes a campaign on TikTok that says let's all focus on one planet, like, and drives everyone that way, like, and people actually start responding to it. Like it just seems like we can affect how this goes. Yeah. Like it looks to me like, and I've heard this, like people that have played Helldivers 1 have kind of like put things on TikTok saying how this may go. And they predict that it's no matter what we do on the left side, we're going to lose. And eventually they're going to give us upgraded like equipment to fight that battle. But
you mean the developers are already waging against us?
That's what I'm afraid. Like when people figure that out, that no matter what we do, it's going to the story's going to kind of go away, a certain way. I think that will be disheartening and probably be bad for the game. But if like, yeah, like things like that just happen. Like I'm thinking of that. There was kind of like this art project. I think Pepe Tortilla told us about it a couple years ago. Like where, like it constantly changes. Like you can kind of put a pixel in the screen, and eventually like they made a flag of a country. Oh, yeah. And it's like people just kind of do like grassroots campaigns to get everybody to
I remember
make a black spot or whatever. Like so imagine like somebody says, all right, let's all meet on X Veneer.
Or on Turin right now. Turing is one of those planets.
Yeah. Like we could really change how this goes, and I think that's exciting, and it also like if they gaslight it, if they make us think that it's responding to us, and really and truthfully like there was always sort of a plan, like that'll be
it's like all of the players, like the player base found out, right? We found out that the developers intend to push the automatons to the point where they will actually start defeating us, to be able to introduce to us new mechanics and new toys in the game, new mechs and stuff, maybe equipment we can use, arms and stuff. And their way of doing that is by, all right, we're going to introduce these new things for you to use to fight off the automatons and the Terminids. But in doing that, we're going to open up this storyline where the automatons begin defeating you. So we find out about that, and like you're saying, what if we all like join forces on social media somewhere, TikTok, Reddit, X, formerly Twitter, this podcast, New Wave Gaming Podcast, best gaming podcast in the history of all podcasts, and everyone coordinates. That would be hilarious, man. Because could you imagine if the devs were like, so like they found out, and now they're fighting back. And our own player base has found out about our treason, is fighting back. And could you imagine if it was like it got to the point where it actually affected their business plan? Like, oh shit.
Absolutely. Because, dude, there'll be people that tear this game apart and read the code and figure out like what is triggering those percentages. Because there has to be something. Because I think like each mission we do counts towards it. But you know how that stuff works, like in Ark, like people will figure out like, okay, whenever each 15 of these that happen, this happens, or what they'll find the code that is in there, and they'll be like, okay, let's manipulate that by doing X, Y, or Z, and
we might also just be going down a dark rabbit hole of conspiracy theory and not know what the hell we're talking about. It might just be a random number that they just like, let's just put a random number there where they think that this is like, contributing to something larger. In reality, it's just a little like number that's just, bloop, bloop, bloop,
True. That's why I say if they're faking it, we'll know quick. But if they're not, it's one of the coolest parts of the game. It's one of the sickest parts. Dude, I saw a report this morning. Like literally, someone's made a TikTok. They've put their head on top of a uniformed soldier, and they're like, "All right, today's your February. Like, what is today? The
17th,
February 17th. Like status report, situation report, and they're like showing the map and like all the percentages." And where people are liberated and where they're not, and like I mean, There are people that I find like they're showing videos where they're just checking on it. Like they're at work, but they can't play, but they want to know how the battle's going.
That's so cool.
And they're looking.
And dude, this game is just released. They're going to be able to add so much. I think our individual ships are going to grow. There's going to be new compartments, kind of like a, No Man's Sky in a way. Like they're just new modules are going to appear where we can interact and do new things. There'll be like a mech bay or something if they ever introduce mechs, and it's going to be real cool. I'm excited to see the future of Helldivers 2. Real quick, Chuck, I want to mention one thing that you touched on. I want to piggyback off of that, and then let's give our listeners two tips that we recommend to keep in mind when they're playing Helldivers 2, and then let's move on to the Xbox thing before it gets too much more time. The one thing I wanted to mention that you kind of touched on, you said that what's cool is that you're like a member of a larger force, of a team, of like a huge like armada, and that plays to the story and the way the mechanics work with like the weapons and stuff. At least that's the way I kind of like when I was doing some research on YouTube research on YouTube, is that you're not a particular character. You're not any one particular character. You're a soldier, and then you're the next soldier, and then you're the next soldier. Right? You're recycled like GI. If you're a cog in the machine, and that's why you're issued standard issue weaponry, and you can't necessarily go deep into modification of the weapons, like on Warzone in the Armory, for example, where you can like put on all these attachments and personalizations, and because you're so-and-so, or you're Captain Price, or you're Soap, or you're a cog in the machine. This is the weaponry that's available. You can unlock new weapons, of course, as you level up, but this is what you get. Pick it, take it, jump, hell dive in there, and that's really cool. I like that because you know what, sometimes I don't want to worry about what the new meta is. Just give me a damn rifle, give me a pistol, give me a shotgun, give me a rocket launcher, give me a couple of airstrikes, and send me in with my boys, my gals, my team, and let's do this.
Yeah. Well, and it also eliminates pay to win for the most part. Like there are a few things like skins and stuff you can buy in here, but like, if I don't want to learn that new meta, it's pretty obvious that if I buy the new skin that's in Call of Duty, it's got a gun that comes with it that's, souped up. And I don't have to unlock that stuff and all those things like that's one of the things I keep hearing about this game is there's really no way to pay to win.
No, but it is microtransaction heavy. They admitted themselves.
Messed with them, but I don't think like many of the microtransactions give you a ton of advantage. Like I know you could have bought that more expensive version of the game and been like a super citizen and some stuff like right from the bat, but as far as and the fact that it's a PvE game versus they've already said there's not going to be any PvP, so who gives a shit if someone's paying to win, really?
The pay to win thing was never a concern for me, but yeah, it is. There are microtransactions, but I mean, that the microtransaction thing has never been a real factor for me because I feel like all these games have microtransactions. You can spend money in all of them. Yeah. But all right, moving on. Any tips for the players out there? I know we've only been playing for a little bit, but like I got a tip in mind. But you go first, Chuck. You got any like recommendations or tips?
Something I keep seeing is on the automaton side. Like I haven't watched really closely, but they kind of come in and like those robots are on what they call a drop ship, and I'm seeing videos where people are shooting like they have a guy that's designated with a rocket launcher type thing, and he's blasting those like before they hit the ground, like and making some major headway.
Dude, that's a good idea.
Like, yeah, I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah, we just gotta unlock. I don't think we have. Well, we might now. We might be able to unlock the equipment, the stratagems to do that. That is a great tip.
Yeah.
Just why struggle with 20 fucking Terminators when you can just knock the ship out of the sky and get on with it?
Yeah. And keep moving. Yeah. Yeah. So that might be it. I'm going to figure that out, I think.
Awesome. My number one tip would be to not, and I learned this from Pepe Tortilla, so all the credit to him. And I hadn't seen it on any of the tips and tricks videos, which are still coming out in abundance because the game's so new, but hadn't seen this on any of them at the time when I learned it from Pepe Tortilla one of our squad mates, and that is if you're using any of the, your assault rifle, your pistol, any of the other weapons, except for the shotgun. I noticed the shotgun, it's different, but with your standard issue rifle, I forget the name of it, pistols and all that, don't just throw out your clips like all the other games, because if you notice, it doesn't tell you how much ammo you have automatically. It just shows you how many clips you have. So in most games, when we want to reload, we'll just reload, and whatever rounds were left in the clip that we just discarded will pass back into our overall ammo count in different inventory. In Helldivers, that is not the case. If you have a 30 round clip and you fire 25 rounds and then discard the last 5 rounds in that clip, those 5 rounds will be gone and you won't be able to use them. So my tip is be cautious with that, because we're so used to it working differently. And shout out to Pepe Tortilla for that badass tip.
Yeah, because ammo, man, runs out.
Son of a gun, it runs out.
Fuck, you're just running in circles.
One little extra pro tip. Don't hesitate to use your stratagems. Use the shit out of them whenever you want. Obviously, be strategic, but don't be, stingy. Just use them, because they don't stop refreshing. They have a cooldown, but they'll just keep coming back. So, as they say in Espanol, no seas codo. Úsalos. Úsalos. All right. We got a little bit of time left. Xbox. Wow. A lot of news there. And it's been coming at us in all forms. Like I've seen it on YouTube as the news we're talking about, the rumors, as the end of the console wars. I've looked at it as, I've seen it come up as the end of Xbox. I've seen it come up as the end of Xbox exclusivity. What are we talking about here, Chuck? Tell the listeners, just in case they haven't already heard.
Yeah, I think I first got wind that maybe Xbox had decided they weren't going to make like kind of that mid-generation console, like where like we get the PlayStation and then we get the PlayStation Slim, or you get the, just kind of that little boosted version of the midlife of a generation. And in this world we live in, like, people don't wait for the facts. Like, they just kind of take whatever they hear, and they like want to get out in front of be the first one to get the creator
the hot
video
take
up there or whatever. So they're like, well, that's the end of the console wars, and like all Xbox games are coming to PlayStation. And I was like, hell, like Starfield, all right, and some things like that Indiana Jones game like came to mind, and so yeah, that got that buzz started, and I think it kind of makes you have to make an announcement at that point. And so we've kind of gone on this roller coaster of kind of speculate, a little bit of information causing a lot of speculation, and then them clarifying kind of what's going on. And yeah, we just kind of wanted to let folks kind of know and give some thoughts on that too.
Yeah, because I mean, I think even with the latest news that we got, which is far off from what the rumors, the pinnacle of the rumors were. I think the peak of the rumors were things like, all of the first party games were going to be released over to PlayStation and other hardware, perhaps over to PC. Even though, because there are a lot that aren't on PC, and then, maybe like who knows, mostly PlayStation, right? That's obviously, it's the Xbox PlayStation dynamic. That's the console war, really. Like, there's other players in there, but, that's always been the thing. You have an Xbox, I have a PlayStation. And anyways, so the pinnacle of the rumor was that, like, or the maximum form was that they were going to release all of that, stop making Xboxes here and forward, and basically just go full bore into focusing on their game creation and all of that stuff, and then allowing it to be published on all sorts of platforms. Mm-hmm. But that's not the actual case. But yeah, you're right, man. Like, the internet ran with that. I mean, these rumors are like, somewhere around a week old, maybe 7 days, 8 days, somewhere around there. rumors started popping up. I think there was an article on The Verge, which is pretty reliable. My understanding is they're pretty reliable. So they must have had a solid source of like where it said something about Starfield going over to PlayStation, and it was really those two games, Starfield and Indiana Jones, were the two that were like that the whole rumors were revolving around. It looks like. However, we recently had like you said, they had to say something, right? They had to make a statement of sorts. Did you see the video where they kind of addressed all of this?
The podcast, yeah, the business podcast sort of deal there.
What happened there, Chuck? If
they kind of went a little bit all over the place. It felt like to me. I mean, they basically said like, no, that's not true. We're definitely going to make the 6th generation console at some point, and they kind of have this attitude towards like there is also like although we are looking at a console war here between PlayStation and Xbox, there's also PC versus console kind of in there, and Xbox kind of has and Microsoft kind of has their foot in both ponds, really.
Yeah.
like because they are the PC, and they talk about like kind of this attitude of like where you're gonna play, or, where your friends are, like kind of thing, like I forget all their little catchphrases, but it's almost like you see this deterioration of the console, like especially like as now that it's gone digital, and I feel like the future is that there probably won't be maybe so much distinct consoles like maybe somewhere like you can kind of see that, and that's probably why that speculation went there, but ultimately, to answer your question, they just kind of clarified things up and said like, we're going to make a console, and there's going to be some games that are going to go over to PlayStation 5. We're not going to tell you what those are. There's 4 of them, and we're going to leave it up to the developers to announce that at their leisure based on their timelines. And they clarified that Starfield and Indiana Jones and Halo and the ones that we were really, wondering if they were going to, launch out there to the platforms. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And,
they didn't mention Halo, but they mentioned the other two, Starfield and Indiana Jones. And it was actually, you might have mentioned Halo because of the fact that it's like, I was so surprised that it didn't come up. I was so blown away that it didn't come up that my brain also wanted to just like automatically be like, well, where's Halo in all of this? But yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was really like the first thing that they came out with to confirm was that they needed to address the whole situation, and that they confirmed that they're going to release 4 games over to other platforms, in this case, PlayStation. They didn't want to mention which ones they were, and that, kind of what I got out of it was that, and that they're not modifying their fundamental exclusivity structure. I think I'm paraphrasing, but so yeah, they said negative. No, we're not releasing our whole, all of our first party exclusivity games to anyone. Just 4. They're not Indiana Jones. They're not Starfield, and they're all. Oh yeah, and they kept reiterating that all of the decisions they make is for the long-term health of Xbox and the Xbox community and everything. So. And then from there, they just went on to a lot of just, they broke it down more. And what it sounds like to me is an experiment. I think they're going to experiment because they kind of kept coming back to that, or they touched on, and I think they're right. And I'd like to see what you think about this, but how the future isn't really about the hardware. It's about the games, and how there's games now that can far surpass what they like. A single game can be much larger now than a whole console or piece of hardware, right? Like the biggest games out there are not being played on one singular thing. They're reaching other platforms. They're reaching PlayStation. They're reaching Xbox. They're reaching mobile. They're reaching PC, and they're blowing up, right? So I think Xbox is looking to experiment with that and see how it goes for them, because according to Game Ranks, which is one of my favorite YouTube channels, and they probably got this data point from somewhere else, so, you can check on it if you want, but according to them, Xbox is in third place in the console wars.
On the Switch and the PlayStation. Yep. Yeah. I think too, let's just think about this from a business standpoint. Like, if you make a new console, you've got to produce that thing. You've got to store it in a warehouse somewhere. You've got to ship it. You've got to take a chance on how many you make versus how many ends up selling. All these things. But that compared to a digital copy of a game that is just downloaded.
Yeah,
it just seems like, other than the development cost, there's no additional risk of, printing 1,000 copies of this ET video game that ends up in a landfill, because it didn't sell.
Back in the day.
Yeah. So it's like I say, I think it's just the future. It's like, once we have pretty much accepted that digital is the way to go, and I got made fun of being slow for accepting it, and I think it's kind of it's just really going away. It's just not even possible anymore.
What kind of a low-grade, horrible human would make fun of you for not making the Switch fast enough, Chuck? Who would do such a thing?
I don't know. Yeah, who would do such a thing?
What a horrible human.
And now Xbox is collapsing. I hope you're happy.
Oh, dude. Deep down, deep down, there's a couple of people I'd like to call. Be like, hey, remember, 5 years ago when we were arguing about stupid shit? Well, no, but look, I mean, and I think that's a thing, because they, what does this represent? Is this a little nugget, a little pebble, a little, a little sliver of something much larger that's going to slowly take effect? Is this the very beginning of what might look like, Xbox closing down their, console manufacturing, development branch or whatever, and then just going full game creation, game development, so on and so forth? We don't know, but they're definitely, experimenting with it at the least.
Yeah, because
the predictions are, I don't remember all 4 titles that are being predicted. I could pull it up, but I really don't feel like it. But I remember that one of them was Sea of Thieves will be coming to PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
So
everyone's speculating
that's one of the ones. Yeah, so because it's 2 community heavy games, and then 2 smaller games that were never really intended to be exclusive to Xbox. So they're just gonna bring them over and see how it goes. But we know that the 4 games that are going to be coming over to PlayStation are more than 1 year old. They're new IPs or new properties, in that they're their first iterations, was my understanding from what they said. I think his name's Phil, is the main Xbox dev dude there. I think his name, I'm pretty sure his name's Phil. So when he said that, it kind of like, that was a hint to me that it wasn't going to be Halo, because there's lots of Halos. There's a franchise. Yeah. So yeah, these games are more than a year old. They're like new IPs, they're first releases, or there's not a whole track record of releases before them. So that kind of leaves some hints. But anyways, so that's really the news there. I don't know what else we can. I mean, I kind of already hinted at what my predictions are. Personally, me, Ovox, is I think that this is just kind of like a small first step towards them kind of backing away from the hardware game. And if I put it in other words, they're losing the war. They're losing the battles they're winning are far less than the battles they're losing in the console wars. And eventually I think they're just gonna powerhouse their creative side, because we also have to keep in mind they purchased Activision and Blizzard, and that whole deal, that whole transaction is just now going firm and completing. And Diablo 4 is going to be coming to Xbox Game Pass March next month. Yeah. So they are not to be dismissed by any means. This doesn't mean anything necessarily bad for Xbox or the Xbox community. This is just, isn't there? Is it the Beatles that sang that song? The changes. Who sang that? Was it the Beatles?
I think it was a little after the Beatles.
Shit.
I'm not sure.
No, I just completely made a fool out of myself.
I was going to guess that came out like in the 80s or something, but I could be wrong.
They're changes. That's all. It doesn't. I don't think this is necessarily anything bad. No. I gotta check now who sings that song. I'm sorry because I may have just.
I think it's just them sort of rolling with the punches, which is probably a good thing for the company, and like you said, an experiment makes sense. Like they kind of left the door open to do a lot of things there, and
nothing to lose, everything to win.
I would say they're making their money more on those downloads than they are on those actual consoles, and one of the things that they brought up that I thought was interesting is like they felt like this decision between the two consoles and whether you do it on PC is like where you are building your your personal game library. And I found that to fall pretty flat because unless you have a shit ton of memory, like it seems like I'm really only holding on to about 4 or 5 games at any one time. That's changed since I got the drive, the extra drive and storage space. But like, I used to have a game library, and I think GameStop was the first enemy of my game library. I started trading those games in for 50 cents, off my new game that I went and got. And so I just didn't have a ton of cartridges, old games left. And I think that those days of the game library, they have to save so much money by these games being digitally downloaded instead of us having a hard copy that I could sell to someone else used. Like, so everyone has to buy the new game now.
Yeah, no, that's and and they touched on that too because that came up. They're like game preservation in libraries. Like, if they stop making consoles or start releasing to other stuff, how are they going to preserve the libraries that all of their community has? That came up as well, and they said they addressed that later.
And they kind of talked about having one license, maybe that because like currently I own like parts of Call of Duty on the computer and on my PlayStation. I'm sure you do too. Like there wasn't one license that I could just port over, but if we'd have been Xbox folks and that. I think that might be the case. Like that.
Well, they already do that.
To
I
PC
think
easier.
they already do that, and they're the only ones that do that.
Exactly.
Have not a transferable license, but a license that can be used by more than one person, I suppose, or like in more than one location, rather.
Yeah. Well, and let's get to the real crux of this issue. Like involved in these properties is Rare Games, who makes Battletoads, and so the future of Battletoads depends on this. Like,
you only want to talk about what's really important. I see. We're trying to keep this lighthearted.
You think those automatons are bad? That Dark Queen is out there just running amok.
She's waiting to run amok on PlayStation too. Oh, a whole new bunch of victims. Feel my wrath.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's really the gist of it. We can touch on this later in a future episode if any more news comes up, which there certainly will be more news. They just kind of gave us an update. So more will come of this for sure. In PlayStation, we don't want to get businessy on this podcast, right? Because that's not what this is. A gaming podcast, a comedy podcast. At least we'd like to think it is a gaming comedy podcast where we can just bullshit and have fun with our community and our listeners. But PlayStation has their own stuff going on. It's just not as easy to break down and be lighthearted, and be funny about. But like they've got their own business challenges and experiments going on. We could look at that, maybe touch on it. But this seemed more like more worthy and definitely something to talk about because we're familiar with the console wars. We've grown up with the console wars, and the console wars are as old as gaming. They began from the very first generation of consoles. There were console wars. We've seen this before. Before it was Xbox and PlayStation, it was Nintendo and PlayStation, and now it's a war on multiple fronts. But the real battle of late has always been PlayStation and Xbox. Nintendo's in there as well. PC's in there. We all know what we all game on, and we all love each other deeply. But we also all like to, give each other grief and shit and bully each other. It's kind of like in the military,
Everybody's got their favorite.
Army, Marine, Navy, Air Force. They're all,
Ford versus Chevy, like those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just part of it.
Did you see, like, in that soup there, that they mentioned that the leap from Generation 5 consoles to Generation 6, they predict that it's going to have the biggest leap in technology that we've ever seen?
Wait, is that coming up?
I think this is all consoles. Like they're predicting, like, the new consoles are going to come out in 20. Like if I think there was 7 years between the last PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5.
It's usually around 7 or 8 years.
Like that.
That's normal.
Yeah. So they're saying that compared to the leap from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5, like when we go from 5 to 6, or the new Xbox, goes to the sixth generation Xbox. I forget exactly what they're all labeled as now, but it's going to be the biggest leap we've seen. And I don't know what they were basing that on.
I think they're basing it on all the AI and
NPCs,
AI and what do they call the language learning? Just all these, all of this stuff, and it'll be great. It'll be fun stuff to talk about and take a look at and bullshit about. But,
and I think one other thing that's floating around out there and about consoles is that they feel like we're kind of halfway through. I think PlayStation did make some kind of announcement.
That's what I was getting at.
We're at the midlife of the
and we can
and a lot of people are taking that and running with it too.
There might be an episode there. But we got to wrap it up, man, because I got to get to jiu-jitsu and I got to pee like a racehorse.
Cool.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining. I'm not going to just go. We gotta say goodbye to our dear listeners, man.
It was a Dumb and Dumber reference.
Just go. I'm about to.
Remember when he freezes to him?
I might have to go back and watch that. The first one. The first one was the one. Dumb and Dumber. Yeah. Oh god, that's such a retarded movie, dude.
Samsonite. Her name is Samsonite. Oh my god.
Hey, thanks for joining us, everyone. Episode 43, New Wave Gaming. It's been awesome. If you enjoy the podcast, please rate and review us on whatever you happen to listen to your podcasts on. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Google Podcasts, whatever it may be. Please, drop us a line, give us a good rating. It will really help us get out to more gamers, and that's really the challenge, right? Is just it is, I think, the top challenge on with podcasts is it's hard to get out to new listeners and new ears, and so any help you can give us would be greatly appreciated. Ratings, reviews, comments, whatever it may be. And we'd be super grateful. Chuck, thanks, man.
Appreciate you.
And thanks to you, listeners. Keep gaming and go check out Helldivers 2. It's a bunch of fun. And we'll get back to you soon with episode, what would it be, 44? Man, we're getting close to 50. Getting close to 50.
Yeah.
We might have to, dude. Yeah. We should see if we can
Isn't that the diamond anniversary? Get some diamond rings. I was thinking.
Oh shoot! All right. Thanks, everyone.
Peace.